Well, Simon, it's that time of year. Of course, winter, it's there. It's cold.
I tolerate it.
You tolerate it.
Yeah.
And I just embrace it because you know what? It's here for 6 months. You might as well play in it.
I embrace it too.
But you know what's becoming apparent though is you can see outside when you drive by people's homes who looks after their homes and who do not. You can see the size of the icicles. You can see, just that steam that's coming out of the homes. And, energy costs are certainly not going to ever get, less expensive. They're only going up and up in price. And I'm amazed that people will think about renovating their home and go for granite countertops and all these cosmetic lovely things, but yet they have the most inefficient, just not well-built home. I don't understand why you wouldn't do that first because it pays you back.
Well, it's still about impressing people. It's still about what TV tells us we should be doing.
But what about from a resale?
Well,
talk to us about that. I mean, from a resale perspective, would somebody prefer the fact that it looks Mac Daddied up and beautiful, or would they prefer to know that this home runs efficiently and then you can Mac Daddy it up?
What do you think?
Well, I'm hoping.
You just answered your own question, and
but
that's the
I'm
problem.
really hoping the latter.
Well, look, we've been talking it up, talking about energy efficiency, and hopefully we'll be driving the message home. But we're sick of always us being the messenger, so we have a very special guest.
Yeah, we do.
So why don't you introduce him?
Well, we have Brandon Charters, who Simon, of course, always bugs me that I crush over. But you are a handsome dude. I mean, you're tall, you're handsome. So let's just acknowledge it. I love my job. And you're, of course, the development manager and part owner of Eurodale Developments.
That is correct, yeah.
So tell us more about your company.
We are a design build company. We do everything from additions, renovations to full custom homes. Dabble a little bit in commercial, but mostly on the residential side.
What's important to you when you're servicing your clientele?
The big thing for us in our industry is to make sure that we deliver on our promises first and foremost, and that's just strictly because our industry has a bit of a reputation because of those TV shows that you talked about.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Our friends in the media like to sensationalize those horror stories, and our big one is just delivering on what we say we're going to do, and that has carried us very well in the market.
Okay, now when you go through that process of first meeting your client, you sit down with them, you talk about, I guess, their wish list, what it is that they're hoping to do. You then, of course, give the real goods as to whether or not it's possible. And I think everything's possible. It's just there's always a price tag attached to it, right, Simon?
Sure.
So it's giving the real terms of what they can do on their budget. Being realistic, I know you preach, is so important. But let's touch upon when people have this great idea of what they want to do and you also have inspected the home and kind of done your due diligence and you feel that, wow, there's a lot of energy loss, there's a lot of issues with the home. How do you tackle that?
Well, Aaron, we do a lot of work in Toronto proper, which obviously there's a huge amount of old housing stock, very poorly insulated housing stock, but good structural homes. And because of intensification and the long commutes and that type of stuff that people experience out of the city, there's a real drive to move closer to the core. And so when you get to those homeowners and you meet with them and talk to them about what they want to do, honestly, the discussion typically is around expanding the space, opening it up, making things more open concept, more beautiful, rarely more energy efficient. They
not in the budget.
Well, and you know what? We all have a budget. 99% of every project has a budget. We're used to working within them. The challenge is fitting everything in your wish list in the budget. And the other challenge is what's on that wish list. And so, like you said, very few people are really thinking about, we're going to spend $400,000 or $500,000 on this house. They're not really thinking about showing off to their friends how well the attic's insulated. They're not going to pull out the ladder and make them climb up the closet and stick their head in a bunch of insulation, but it's a critical part. How's it heated and cooled? And it's not just for energy efficiency, it also impacts comfort and health of the occupants. So we often bring it up. Yeah. We often bring that discussion point up, but it's some customers are a little more astute and willing to explore those options and knock some of those frills off of the wish list and do some of the things that are a little bit more important to the core of the home.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing a renovation, I mean, this is something where that's your stamp, that's your seal, as you will. It's like the Renomark seal, which you're a part of and very much an ambassador for. when you leave, that's what you've created. You've helped make that. And I guess it must be challenging when you know that certain things should be done for the integrity of the house, but you have to also adhere to the wishes of the clients, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that have hired you, and it really is up to them. It's their choice, Simon, isn't it?
Well, I think you're right, though, because, Brendan alluded to the fact that when you first meet your clients, they have a wish list of what they want the kitchen to look like and the flooring, and we want this flow and new lighting. And rarely, if ever, you see improvements to the HVAC or insulation or any of those things. So I guess it's a bit of a fine line that you walk, where you could be ramming some of this down their throats, and unsolicited advice to be diplomatic.
Though, Simon, it's so important. It almost is just part of the job. For us, it's educating the homeowner and letting them then make an educated decision. So it's not necessarily me making the decision for them. For example, when we have a conversation with the homeowners, usually when you're talking energy efficiency, people want to know return on investment. And so they talk to a lot of realtors and they say, well, you may need marble counters or granite counters, and this is 5 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, and that they can visualize that return on investment. But the energy efficiency of the home also has a payback, a return on investment, and it's enjoyment value because it's the comfort and health of the people, but also a payback as far as consuming less energy. And we all know energy is, I'm sure we have $65 a barrel of oil right now, but it's not going to stay there forever. Natural gas prices are at a historical low. It's not going to stay there. Hydro prices are escalating continuously. And if we can at least let them know what those return on investments can be, then they can make that end
So
game
talk
decision.
pocketbook. I mean, just
Absolutely.
talk the money factor, and that seems to make people listen a little bit more. But when you go into these homes, do you find yourself right then and there as you're doing your walkthrough and analyzing what can be done? They want this wall to be removed. They want this here, structural changes. Do you also give them advice right then and there as to, okay, look, I see that you're getting a lot of loss, or I can feel the draft? I mean, have you thought of?
Yeah, we will touch on some of the key areas, but what we actually recommend, and we do this by doing it with clients today, is we actually recommend that they bring in a home energy auditor. And that auditor is going to go through the home, do a blower door test, and see those areas where the home is inefficient. Where is it leaking energy? Where is it leaking air and moisture? And what can we do to impact that in a positive way? And also, if you do that at the outset of the project before you start designing, then you can factor those costs into the project so you can budget for it. And you can also take a look at what some of the potential rebates are that are out there, because different government agencies and different utility companies have incentives that they're trying to put in people's hands to allow them to do these upgrades and reduce the initial upfront cost.
And we could be talking about a couple $1,000s here.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like Enbridge, for example, has a current program that it does end in 2014. They're usually done on the calendar year, so we're anticipating that it will be renewed. They will cover the cost of a pre and post audit, so that's going to cover almost $500 right there. And then depending on whether you reach certain thresholds of 25% less consumption or 50% less consumption of the original benchmark of the home, you have between an additional $1,100 and $1,500, so almost $2,000 in potential rebates today that you can qualify for.
So there's no excuse.
No excuse.
It's right there. They're offering these to be able to do. And is it intimidating? I mean, I guess when you hear that blower door test, is that something somebody might kind of go, okay, what is that?
No one comes and kicks the door in.
What does that mean exactly?
No, they open the door, they seal it up with a fan, and they basically draw air. So when you're drawing air out of the house, it's drawing it from the holes and cracks and windows and foundations, etc. And what it's going to do, even if you're today not able to afford all those upgrades, it's going to give you a list of the things you should plan to do long term. And some of them are cheap. Topping up your attic insulation, air sealing around the windows.
Caulking is a big one. Yeah,
absolutely. And so those things are invaluable information. Even if you decide not to do it today, you have this prescriptive of what's sort of wrong from an energy perspective in your home.
And in that way, you can make decisions that are wise and they're not just guesswork. I mean, you have something telling you exactly what you're living in.
You're not being sold, right? You're not being sold, hey, let's top up the insulation for no real reason. It really gives you a reason why you should do these things and what those benefits will be.
And we're talking about doing a pre-renovation audit and a post-renovation audit, so you can actually see exactly what the impact has been. And of course, you talked about the cost savings initially. savings on gas and savings on hydro and all of that. But I think more and more people are starting to recognize that if a home is more energy efficient, it's worth more. And some of the smarter realtors out there, the ones that are really getting this stuff, are starting to promote it on their listings, promote it in their marketing materials, and buyers are starting to get the message. And just like years ago, we didn't always do a home inspection.
No.
Now people wouldn't dream of buying a house without a home inspection. I think the time will come eventually, and hopefully sooner rather than later, where it would be a requirement to do a home energy audit. And what's the home energy score? What am I getting?
Yeah, those
myself
numbers will
into?
make sense to everybody. And I think what's also important is, don't you notice, Simon, more and more people are asking for proof of what the heating and the utility bills are. And this is all about what we're talking about.
Well, and it factors directly into how much the house is going to cost for you to operate. So if you're buying $1 million home and it's going to cost you $10,000 a month to operate, it's a lot bigger mortgage that you're going to need than $1 million home that's $2,000 a month. Now, those both seem high values, but just for example. And so I think you're absolutely correct, Simon. We are going to get a situation, and let's face it, the new home builders are building homes that are much more energy efficient. So those established homes need to be able to compete in the resale market with those homes. So if you're taking a really old home, it's not just location, location, location. It's also going to be how efficient is the building that you're buying on that location.
Absolutely.
Because there's always that rumor out there that people think that the new builds are not nearly as well built structurally as the old. You hear that people say, like,
That's an old
my
saying.
home's built like a brick house,
yeah.
from the 70s and 80s. But you know what? If it's not maintained, everybody, if you're not, and whoever the owner prior to you, I mean, this home's property requires maintenance. I mean, their work.
sure.
And if you can't do it, then hire somebody else to do it. But there are options out there. And I think this energy audit where they're offering for you to be able to do it, giving you money to do so, why wouldn't you take that opportunity, Simon? Just to have, in case you ever decide one day to sell, that's right there adding value to knowing what your property's all about. People want to know, what are they buying?
Absolutely. But you have to plan it, execute it, and document everything.
Yeah, really good. Well, Brandon Charters, Eurodale Development. If people want to find out more, of course, about the Enbridge program, where do they do so?
There's a website, knowyourenergyscore.ca. You can Google. Our friends at Google are optimized Enbridge right up to the top. So you can find out information, or you can call a reputable contractor through Renomark at renomark.ca, or you can reach out to us, eurodale.ca, and we'll gladly help you with the project.
Yeah, and if you want to reach out to Brandon directly, of course, you can always reach out to us at realestatetalkshow.ca or call our help desk anytime, 416-366-9090, and we'll make sure that we connect you with him. So,
Thank
Brandon, you're a regular. Welcome back on the show.
Thanks. Great to be here, of
Your
course.
family, got to have you back.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you.